My name is Brent Marrow, and I build security systems for a living. The irony wasn't lost on me that I couldn't secure my own marriage. I founded TechGuard Solutions 8 years ago in downtown Des Moines, Iowa. We install smart home systems, cameras, motion sensors, automated locks, the works. Business is booming because everyone wants to know who's coming and going from their property. Everyone except me, apparently. Alexa, are you having an affair with my wife? I asked the smart speaker in my kitchen that Thursday morning. The device remained silent, which was more than I could say for the nagging suspicion in my gut. Nessa Marrow, my wife of 12 years, sat across from me at our granite breakfast bar, scrolling through her phone with the intensity of a stock trader during a market crash. She worked as a project manager at Quantum Dynamics, a rival tech firm that specialized in corporate security solutions. We used to joke about being competitors in business and partners in everything else. These days, we barely talked about either. Working late again tonight? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Thursday team meeting, she replied without looking up. Might run until 9 or 10. Thursday team meeting. The same excuse she'd used for the past 6 weeks. I made mental note number 47 in my growing collection of inconsistencies. Nessa was 36, blonde, and still turned heads when she walked into a room. She had the kind of charisma that made clients trust her instantly and competitors underestimate her. I'd fallen for both her looks and her sharp mind during a tech conference in Chicago 12 years ago. Back then, she laughed at my jokes about installing cameras in toasters and promised we'd build an empire together. Now she barely acknowledged when I entered a room. I'll probably grab dinner with the team afterward, she added, finally glancing up. Don't wait up. I nodded and took another sip of coffee, studying her face for tells. After 8 years of analyzing security footage and reading people's behavior patterns, I'd developed a decent eye for deception. Nessa was good, but she wasn't perfect. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and for just a moment, her expression softened. Not the way it used to when she looked at me, but close. Then she caught herself and slipped the phone into her purse. I should head out, she said, standing and smoothing her navy blazer. Big presentation today. She kissed my cheek, a quick, obligatory peck that felt more like a business handshake, and headed for the garage. I listened to her BMW start up and pull away, then immediately walked to my home office. Time to do what I did best, gather evidence. I pulled up our shared calendar on my laptop. Nessa's Thursday meetings had appeared 6 weeks ago, always scheduled from 6 to 10 p.m. But here's what bothered me. She'd created them as private events. In 12 years of marriage, Nessa had never made her work calendar private from me. We used to coordinate everything through our shared system. I opened our cell phone account online. The family plan gave me access to basic usage data for both our lines. Nessa's Thursday evening calls had spiked dramatically over the past month and a half. Most were to a number I didn't recognize, lasting anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. My hands moved across the keyboard like a pianist playing a familiar piece. I cross-referenced the unknown number with our company database. TechGuard had contracts with most major businesses in the metro area, which meant I had access to employee directories for security purposes. The number belonged to Kellan Trennix. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the name on my screen. Kellan Trennix. 39 years old, married, father of 2, senior vice president of business development at Meridian Tech Solutions, and my former business partner. Kellan and I had started TechGuard together 9 years ago. He'd handled sales and client relations while I focused on technical development and installation. We'd been best friends since college, roommates for 3 years, and he'd been the best man at my wedding. The partnership dissolved amicably 2 years later when Kellan wanted to expand into corporate consulting and I preferred residential security. We'd shaken hands, split our assets 50-50, and wished each other well. He'd even sent a congratulations card when TechGuard landed its first major contract. Now he was calling my wife every Thursday evening. I pulled up Kellan's LinkedIn profile. His company photo showed the same easy smile and confident posture I remembered, though his dark hair had started graying at the temples. According to his bio, Meridian Tech had grown into one of the region's largest corporate security firms. Good for him. His personal Facebook page was mostly private, but his profile picture showed him with his family at what looked like a recent vacation. His wife was an elegant woman with auburn hair and intelligent eyes, Dr. Elara Trennix, according to the tag. The comments revealed she was a principal at Roosevelt Elementary. They looked happy, just like Nessa and I used to look. I spent the next hour diving deeper into patterns. Nessa's credit card showed Thursday evening charges at upscale restaurants across the city, places we'd never been together. Her car's GPS history, which synced to our shared cloud account, revealed stops at locations that didn't match her claimed work meetings. But the smoking gun came from our own smart home system. I'd installed a comprehensive TechGuard package in our house 3 years ago. Motion sensors, door cameras, automated locks, the works. The system logged every entry and exit, every motion detection, every door opening. I'd never bothered to check the logs for our own activity because, well, why would I? Turns out I should have been paying attention. The data showed Nessa leaving the house every Thursday at exactly 5:47 p.m. She returned between 10:15 and 11:30 p.m., always using the garage entrance to avoid the front door camera. But here's what made my stomach clench. On 3 separate occasions, she'd returned home and immediately gone to the guest bathroom. The motion sensor showed she'd spent 15 to 20 minutes in there before heading upstairs. Cleaning up, removing evidence, preparing to face her husband. I printed everything and organized it into a folder: dates, times, locations, phone records, GPS data, credit card receipts, the kind of comprehensive documentation that would make my divorce attorney very happy. Then I called my sister. "Ava Marrow, paralegal extraordinaire. How can I help you?" she answered on the second ring. "I need legal advice," I said. "What kind of trouble are you in now, big brother?" "The kind that involves divorce papers and asset protection." The line went quiet for a moment. Ava worked for Hendricks, Morrison & Associates, one of Des Moines' most respected family law firms. She'd seen enough messy divorces to recognize the tone in my voice. "Nessa?" she asked quietly. "Nessa," I confirmed. "How sure are you?" 97%. I need the other 3% before I make any moves." "Smart man. What do you need from me?" I explained my evidence collection and asked about the legal implications of my surveillance methods. Everything I'd gathered was technically legitimate: shared accounts, family plans, and monitoring systems installed with full disclosure. Ava confirmed that Iowa's no-fault divorce laws meant I didn't need to prove adultery to file, but solid evidence would help with asset division. "Get me more," she said, "and whatever you do, don't confront her until you have an airtight case. Emotional decisions lead to expensive mistakes." After we hung up, I sat in my office staring at the evidence folder. 6 weeks of careful documentation, and I still felt like I was missing something crucial. Nessa was smart enough to cover her tracks better than this. Either she was getting sloppy, or she wanted me to find out. Neither option made me feel better. My phone rang. Derek Hoffman, my best friend since high school and TechGuard's head of security consulting. "Lunch?" he asked without preamble. "Can't. I'm investigating my wife's affair." "Jesus, Brent. Are you sure?" "Pretty sure. Want to help me confirm it?" Derek had spent 10 years as a private investigator before joining my company. He understood surveillance, evidence gathering, and the emotional toll of discovering betrayal. More importantly, he owed me several favors. "What do you need?" he asked. "Thursday evening surveillance. Professional grade, admissible quality." "Consider it done. But Brent?" "Yeah?" "Be prepared for whatever we find. Sometimes the truth is worse than the suspicion." I hung up and looked around my office. Awards lined the walls. Recognition for TechGuard's growth, community involvement, technical innovation. I'd built this company from nothing, created jobs for 37 people, and established myself as one of Iowa's most successful entrepreneurs. But I couldn't keep my own wife faithful. The irony was suffocating. I installed security systems for a living, helped people protect what mattered most to them, and I'd been completely oblivious to the threat in my own home. Not anymore. I opened a new document on my computer and began typing. If Nessa wanted to play games, I'd show her what a professional game looked like. I had resources, skills, and motivation. Most importantly, I had something she didn't expect: patience. I wouldn't confront her until I had everything, every detail, every lie, every secret meeting. I'd build a case so comprehensive that she'd have no choice but to admit the truth. And then I'd show her exactly what happened when someone betrayed Brent Marrow. The smart home speaker chimed softly, indicating an incoming message. I glanced at the display, a text from Nessa. "Team meeting moved to 5:30, dinner afterward, home late, love you." Love you. 2 words that used to make my day and now felt like a slap in the face. I saved my document, locked the evidence folder in my desk drawer, and headed back to work. Thursday evening was still 8 hours away, and I had preparations to make. Derek positioned himself across the street from Meridian Tech Solutions at 5:15 p.m., camera equipment ready and a clear view of the parking garage. I stayed home, monitoring our security system and tracking Nessa's location through her phone's GPS. She left our house at 5:47 p.m., exactly as predicted. Instead of heading toward her office for the supposed team meeting, she drove straight downtown to Meridian's building. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Target acquired. Black BMW, license plate matches. She's heading into the parking garage. I watch the GPS dot on my screen move through downtown Des Moines, then stop at Meridian's address. It stayed there for exactly 12 minutes before moving again. Both subjects leaving in silver Tesla, Derek texted, following at distance. I pulled up the Tesla's registration through TechGuard's database access. Kellan Trennix, owner. The same man who'd stood beside me at my wedding, who'd helped me celebrate every business milestone, who'd promised to always have my back. The GPS trail led to Bistro Margot, an upscale French restaurant in the East Village. Expensive, intimate, the kind of place you took someone when you wanted to impress them. Nessa and I had talked about trying it for our anniversary, but never made reservations. Apparently she'd found someone else to take her. Derek sent photos throughout the evening. Nessa and Kellan at a corner table, leaning close together, his hand covering hers across the white tablecloth. Her laughing at something he'd said, the genuine smile I hadn't seen in months lighting up her face. The final photo showed them leaving together, his arm around her waist, her head tilted toward his shoulder. I stared at that image for a long time. 12 years of marriage, and I couldn't remember the last time Nessa had looked at me the way she was looking at Kellan in that photograph. My phone rang at 10:23 p.m. They went to the Marriott downtown, Derek reported. Checked in under his name, room 847. I've got photos of them entering the lobby and heading to the elevators. How long have they been up there? About an hour. You want me to wait for them to come down? No, I've seen enough. I hung up and sat in my dark office, surrounded by the evidence of my wife's betrayal. The smart home system showed she'd texted me 30 minutes ago. Dinner running long, home by 11:30. She was probably lying naked next to my former best friend while sending me reassuring messages about work meetings. The rage hit me like a physical force, hot and overwhelming. I wanted to drive downtown, kick in their hotel room door, and confront them both. I wanted to scream, to break something, to make them feel even a fraction of the humiliation burning through my chest. Instead, I took a deep breath and opened my laptop. Emotional reactions led to stupid decisions. Stupid decisions led to losing everything I'd worked to build. If Nessa wanted to destroy our marriage, she'd pick the wrong man to underestimate. I spent the next 2 hours researching Kellan's life with the same methodical approach I used for security assessments. Social media profiles, business records, property ownership, financial filings, everything I could access legally. Kellan lived in an $800,000 house in West Des Moines with his wife Elara and their 2 children. Meridian Tech had grown significantly since our partnership ended, but the company carried substantial debt from rapid expansion. His personal finances showed the strain of maintaining an expensive lifestyle on leveraged assets. Most interesting was his marriage. Dr. Elara Trennix had been principal at Roosevelt Elementary for 6 years. Her LinkedIn profile described her as an education advocate and community leader. Local news articles mentioned her involvement in school board meetings and curriculum development initiatives. She looked like a woman who'd built her life around stability, family, and professional achievement, the kind of person who wouldn't appreciate discovering her husband's Thursday evening activities. I found her personal email address through the school district's website and spent an hour crafting a message. It needed to be factual, professional, and impossible to dismiss as a prank or revenge fantasy. Dr. Trennix, I wrote. You don't know me, but I believe we have something important in common. My name is Brent Marrow, and I'm married to Nessa Marrow. I have reason to believe our spouses have been meeting regularly on Thursday evenings. I'd like to share some information with you and discuss a possible solution that benefits us both. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I attached a selection of the most damning evidence, restaurant receipts, GPS data, and one of Derek's photographs showing Kellan and Nessa entering the hotel together. Then I hesitated. Sending this email would cross a line I couldn't uncross. Once Dr. Trennix knew the truth, events would move quickly beyond my control. But Nessa had already crossed that line 6 weeks ago. She'd made her choice every Thursday evening since then. Now it was time for consequences. I hit send at 12:47 a.m. Nessa came home at 1:15 a.m., 45 minutes later than promised. I pretended to be asleep when she slipped into bed, but I could smell unfamiliar cologne on her skin and feel the guilt radiating from her body as she carefully avoided touching me. She'd showered at the hotel, but she couldn't wash away what she'd done. Friday morning, she acted completely normal. Coffee, small talk about weekend plans, a quick kiss goodbye before heading to work. If I hadn't seen the photographs, I might have convinced myself I'd imagined everything. My phone rang at 9:30 a.m. Mr. Marrow, this is Elara Trennix. I received your email. Her voice was steady, controlled, but I could hear the underlying tension. She'd seen the evidence and understood its implications. Thank you for calling, Dr. Trennix. I imagine this is difficult. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it, but I need to know. How certain are you about these allegations? Certain enough to stake my reputation on it. I have 6 weeks of documentation, professional surveillance photographs, and GPS tracking data. I'm not a jealous husband seeing things that aren't there. Can we meet? I'd like to see everything you have. We arranged to meet that afternoon at a coffee shop near Roosevelt Elementary. I spent the morning organizing my evidence into a comprehensive presentation, complete with timelines, location data, and photographic proof. Dr. Elara Trennix arrived exactly on time. She was more striking in person than in her online photos. Auburn hair pulled back in a professional bun, intelligent green eyes, and the kind of composed bearing that suggested she was accustomed to handling crises. "Mr. Marrow," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for contacting me. I'm not sure many people would have had the courage. Call me Brent, and I'm not sure courage is the right word. Anger, maybe, or just a need for the truth." I laid out everything methodically: phone records, GPS data, restaurant receipts, hotel registrations, surveillance photographs. Elara studied each piece of evidence with the careful attention of someone accustomed to analyzing complex information. "How long have you suspected?" she asked after reviewing everything. 6 weeks. But looking back, I think it's been building for months. Changes in behavior, unexplained absences, emotional distance. I just didn't want to see it. "I know the feeling." She closed the folder and looked directly at me. "Kellan's been different lately. More attentive, actually. Bringing me flowers, suggesting date nights, talking about taking a family vacation. I thought we were going through a good phase. Guilt makes people overcompensate. Apparently." She was quiet for a moment, processing everything. "What do you want from me, Brent?" "I want them to face consequences. Not just divorce papers and asset division. I want them to understand what they've done to our families, our trust, our futures. I want accountability." Elara studied my face carefully. "What did you have in mind?" I leaned forward and explained my plan. It was audacious, risky, and would require perfect timing. But if executed correctly, it would give both Nessa and Kellan a confrontation they'd never forget. "You want to ambush them in public," Elara said when I finished. "I want to control the narrative. Right now they think they're getting away with something. They're careful, secretive, probably telling themselves that what we don't know won't hurt us. I want to shatter that illusion completely." "And you think public humiliation is the answer?" "I think truth is the answer. The public setting just ensures they can't lie their way out of it." Elara was quiet for several minutes, considering my proposal. Finally, she nodded. "I'm in, but I have conditions." "Name them." "First, we do this professionally. No screaming, no violence, no behavior that reflects poorly on either of us. Second, we document everything for our respective divorce proceedings. Third, once it's over, we walk away clean. No ongoing revenge plots or escalation." "Agreed." We shook hands across the coffee shop table, two betrayed spouses forming an alliance against the people who'd broken their trust. "When do we do this?" Elara asked. "Next Thursday, their usual dinner date. I'll make reservations at the same restaurant and ensure we're seated nearby. When the moment is right, we'll introduce ourselves. And then? Then we give them a choice. End it immediately and face the consequences, or watch us destroy everything they've built together." Elara smiled for the first time since we'd met. It was a cold, determined expression that reminded me why elementary school principals were often the most formidable people in any room. "I think I'm going to enjoy this," she said. I made reservations at Bistro Margot for 7:30 p.m. the following Thursday, requesting a table with a clear view of the restaurant's main dining area. Derek handled surveillance, while Elara and I prepared for what we'd privately started calling the intervention. Nessa followed her usual pattern, leaving home at 5:47 p.m. for her supposed team meeting, meeting Kellan at Meridian Tech, then driving together to the restaurant. They arrived at 7:15 p.m. and were seated at their preferred corner table. Elara and I entered at 7:35 p.m. She looked stunning in a black dress and heels, her auburn hair styled elegantly. I'd chosen a dark suit and tie, the kind of outfit that suggested this was a special occasion. To any observer, we appeared to be an attractive couple enjoying a romantic dinner. The hostess seated us 3 tables away from Nessa and Kellan, close enough to observe their body language, but far enough to avoid immediate recognition. They were absorbed in each other, holding hands across the table and speaking in the intimate whispers of new lovers. "They look happy," Elara observed quietly. "They won't in about 10 minutes. We ordered wine and appetizers, playing our roles as a couple on a date. Elara was an excellent actress. She laughed at my jokes, maintained eye contact, and created the perfect illusion of romantic interest. Anyone watching would assume we were in the early stages of a relationship. Tell me about your marriage, she said as we waited for our entrees. Before all this. 12 years. We met at a tech conference, bonded over our mutual ambition and terrible sense of humor. Built our careers together, bought the house, talked about starting a family someday. I thought we were happy. Were you? I considered the question seriously. I thought so. But looking back, maybe we were just comfortable. Maybe comfort isn't enough. Kellan and I have been married 14 years, Elara said. High school sweethearts, college together, married right after graduation, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, the whole traditional package. I thought we were building something permanent. What changed? I don't know. That's the hardest part. I can't pinpoint when he stopped being satisfied with what we had. Our conversation was interrupted by familiar laughter from the corner table. Nessa was giggling at something Kellan had said, her hand resting on his arm in a gesture of casual intimacy. She looked radiant, alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. She's beautiful, Elara said without malice. So are you. That's not why this happened. No, it's not. She took a sip of wine and studied the couple across the room. Are you ready? I checked my watch, 8:15 p.m. They'd been together for an hour, long enough to settle into the comfortable rhythm of their affair. Perfect timing for disruption. Let's do this. I stood and walked toward the restroom, passing directly by their table. Kellan glanced up as I approached, and I saw the exact moment recognition hit his face. His expression shifted from contentment to confusion to dawning horror in the space of 3 seconds. Brent, he said uncertainly. I stopped and turned, as if noticing him for the first time. Kellan, what a surprise. I didn't know you came here. Nessa looked up from her menu, and her face went completely pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I'm here with a friend, I continued conversationally. Actually, I think you know her. Elara, would you come over here? Elara approached our table with perfect poise, her heels clicking confidently on the hardwood floor. She smiled warmly at the shocked couple. Hello, darling, she said to Kellan. Fancy meeting you here? The silence that followed was deafening. Other diners began to notice the tension, conversations quieting as they sensed drama unfolding. Nessa finally found her voice. What is this? What's going on? I pulled out a chair and sat down at their table uninvited. Elara did the same, completing our little circle. This is a conversation that's long overdue, I said calmly. Nessa, I'd like you to meet Dr. Elara Trennix. Elara, this is my wife, Nessa. Your wife, Elara said with perfectly feigned surprise. How wonderful to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you. Kellan looked like he might be having a heart attack. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hands trembled as he reached for his water glass. I don't understand, Nessa said, but her voice lacked conviction. She understood perfectly. Really? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Let me help clarify things. I placed the phone on the table, displaying Derek's surveillance photographs. Nessa and Kellan entering the restaurant together, holding hands across the table, walking into the Marriott Hotel. These were taken last Thursday, I explained, and the Thursday before that, and the Thursday before that. 6 weeks of documentation, to be precise. Elara leaned forward with interest. Oh, these are lovely photos. You two look so happy together. Kellan, you never mentioned you'd started dating again. Dating again? Nessa's voice rose slightly. Well, yes. I filed for divorce this morning. I assumed Kellan had mentioned he was leaving me for you. The color drained from Kellan's face completely. Elara, that's not... I never said... You never said what? She interrupted. That you were leaving your wife and children for your married girlfriend. How terribly inconsiderate of me to assume. Other diners were openly staring now. The restaurant's atmosphere had shifted from romantic intimacy to uncomfortable voyeurism. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Nessa tried to take control of the situation. This is inappropriate. Whatever you think you know. I know everything, I said quietly. Phone records, GPS tracking, hotel registrations, credit card receipts. I know about your Thursday meetings, your fake work excuses, and your creative explanations for coming home late. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. I also know about the divorce papers I filed this morning, asset separation, custody arrangements for our shared business interests, and a very detailed accounting of marital misconduct. I slid the envelope across the table to Nessa. Congratulations. You're officially free to pursue your relationship with Kellan without the inconvenience of a husband. Nessa opened the envelope with shaking hands. Her eyes scanned the legal documents, and I watched her realize the scope of what I'd prepared. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I already did. Iowa is a no-fault divorce state, which means I don't need to prove adultery to dissolve our marriage. But having proof certainly helps with asset division." Elara turned to Kellan with the same cold smile she'd worn at the coffee shop. "Darling, I should mention that I've also filed for divorce. This morning, actually. Brent and I coordinated our timing to ensure everything was properly documented." Kellan finally found his voice. "Elara, please. We can talk about this at home." "Home?" She laughed. "Oh, you won't be coming home. I've changed the locks, closed our joint accounts, and retained Morrison and Associates for legal representation. Your belongings are packed and waiting on the front porch." The silence stretched for several seconds. Then Nessa exploded. "This is insane," she shouted, drawing stares from across the restaurant. "You can't just ambush us like this. You're both crazy." "Crazy?" I kept my voice level and calm. "I'm not the one having an affair with my husband's former business partner. I'm not the one lying about work meetings while sneaking around hotel rooms. I'm not the one who destroyed a 12-year marriage for Thursday night excitement. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted something new, something thrilling, something that made you feel alive again. You found it with Kellan, and you decided our marriage was expendable." I leaned forward, meeting her eyes directly. "What you didn't understand is that actions have consequences. You chose this path, Nessa. I'm just making sure you reach the destination." Elara stood gracefully, placing her napkin on the table. "Gentlemen, ladies, this has been illuminating. Kellan, my attorney, will contact you tomorrow about custody arrangements and property division. Nessa, best of luck with your new relationship. I hope it brings you everything you deserve." I stood as well, dropping a $50 bill on the table to cover our drinks. "The divorce papers are already filed and served. You have 30 days to respond through your attorneys. I suggest you use that time to figure out what you want your new life to look like." We walked away together, leaving Nessa and Kellan sitting in stunned silence at their romantic table. The entire restaurant watched us go, whispers following in our wake. Outside, Elara and I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, processing what we'd just accomplished. "How do you feel?" she asked. Satisfied, relieved, maybe a little empty. I looked back at the restaurant's warm windows. 12 years of marriage ended in 15 minutes. "It ended 6 weeks ago," Elara corrected. "We just made it official." She was right, of course. The marriage had been over the moment Nessa decided to meet Kellan for their first Thursday evening rendezvous. Everything since then had been an elaborate lie. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we go home to our separate lives and let the lawyers handle the details. We've done what we came to do." Elara extended her hand for a final handshake. "Thank you, Brent, for having the courage to contact me, for planning this confrontation, and for treating me like an equal partner rather than a victim. Thank you for trusting me, and for being the perfect dinner companion." We parted ways in the parking lot, two strangers who'd shared one evening of perfectly executed revenge. I drove home through the quiet Des Moines streets, past the familiar landmarks of my old life. The house felt different when I walked through the front door. Lighter, somehow. The oppressive weight of suspicion and uncertainty had lifted, replaced by the clean simplicity of truth. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my office, reviewing the evening's events. My phone buzzed with text messages, angry, desperate, pleading words from Nessa that I deleted without reading. Derek called at 11:30 p.m. "How did it go?" he asked. "Perfectly. They never saw it coming." "Any regrets?" I considered the question seriously. "No, they made their choices, and now they get to live with the consequences. I'm done being the oblivious husband." "What's next?" "Next, I build a new life, one where I don't have to wonder who my wife is really with on Thursday nights." I hung up and looked around my office one final time. Tomorrow, I'd start the process of dividing our assets, separating our lives, and moving forward as a single man. It would be complicated, expensive, and emotionally draining. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The next morning brought a flood of consequences I hadn't fully anticipated. My phone started ringing at 6:30 a.m. with calls from Nessa, which I ignored. By 7 a.m., she was pounding on the front door, demanding to be let inside. "Open this door, Brent. We need to talk." I watched her through the security camera display, noting her disheveled appearance and frantic energy. She'd clearly spent the night somewhere other than home, probably at Kellan's house, though according to Elara, that option was no longer available. "The locks have been changed," I called through the intercom. "Your attorney can arrange a supervised visit to collect your personal belongings." "This is my house, too. You can't lock me out." Actually, I can. Check the divorce filing. I'm claiming the marital residence as my primary asset, offset by your claim on the business accounts. Your signature on the separation agreement confirms you understood these terms. That stopped her protests. She hadn't read the papers carefully enough the night before to understand their full implications. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Local news picked up the restaurant story. Someone posted video on social media. You might want to check Channel 8. I turned on the morning news and found exactly what Derek had warned me about. Some enterprising diner had recorded our confrontation on their phone and posted it to various social media platforms. The video quality was poor, but the audio was clear enough to understand the basic situation. The news anchor described it as a dramatic restaurant confrontation between two couples dealing with alleged infidelity. They'd blurred our faces for privacy, but anyone who knew us would recognize the voices and context. Within an hour, the video had been shared hundreds of times across Des Moines' social media groups. The comments ranged from supportive to critical, but the overall consensus seemed to favor the betrayed spouses over the cheating couple. My office phone started ringing at 8 a.m. TechGuard's receptionist, Jennifer, sounded frazzled when she transferred the first call. Brent, I've got reporters calling about some restaurant incident. They want to know if you're available for comment. No comment to anyone. If they keep calling, refer them to our attorney. The second call was from my biggest client, Midwest Financial Group. Their security director wanted to discuss whether my personal situation would affect our ongoing contract. Jim, my personal life has no bearing on TechGuard's ability to provide excellent security services, I assured him. Our team remains fully committed to your account. I'm sure that's true, Brent, but you understand our position. Midwest Financial can't be associated with any kind of scandal or negative publicity. I understood perfectly. Corporate clients valued stability and discretion above everything else. A security company owner involved in a public infidelity drama was exactly the kind of liability they wanted to avoid. By noon, I'd received similar calls from 3 other major clients. None of them terminated our contracts immediately, but all expressed concern about the situation and requested meetings to discuss moving forward. The irony was suffocating. I'd spent years building TechGuard's reputation on trust, reliability, and professional discretion. Now my wife's affair was threatening to destroy everything I'd worked to create. Derek arrived at my office around 1:00 p.m. with coffee and updates. The video has been shared over 1,000 times, he reported. Someone identified Nessa and Kellan by name in the comments. Their employers are getting calls, too. What kind of calls? Curious employees, concerned clients, a few reporters looking for additional information. Quantum Dynamics issued a statement saying Nessa's personal life doesn't reflect company values. Meridian Tech hasn't responded yet. I leaned back in my chair, processing the expanding scope of our restaurant confrontation. What had seemed like a private moment of justice was becoming a very public spectacle. Any word from Elara? She called this morning. Roosevelt Elementary is standing by her, but she's taking a few personal days to handle the divorce proceedings. Apparently Kellan showed up at the school yesterday afternoon trying to talk to her. How did that go? Derek grinned. Security escorted him off the property. Turns out elementary school principals have excellent crisis management skills. My phone buzzed with a call from Ava. I put her on speaker so Derek could hear. Brent, I've been fielding calls all morning about your restaurant adventure, she said without preamble. Please tell me you didn't do anything that could complicate the divorce proceedings. Everything was legal and documented. No threats, no violence, just truth and consequences. Good, because Nessa hired Patricia Kellerman as her attorney, and Patricia specializes in making divorce proceedings as expensive and complicated as possible. Patricia Kellerman had a reputation as Des Moines' most aggressive family law attorney. She was smart, ruthless, and completely comfortable destroying people's lives in pursuit of favorable settlements. What's our strategy? I asked. Stick to the facts, document everything, and avoid any additional public confrontations. Patricia will try to paint you as vindictive and unstable. Don't give her ammunition. After Ava hung up, Derek and I spent the afternoon developing a crisis management plan for TechGuard. We prepared statements for concerned clients, reviewed all active contracts for stability clauses, and identified potential vulnerabilities in our business relationships. The hardest part was explaining the situation to our employees. TechGuard had 37 staff members, most of whom had worked for the company for years. They deserved honesty about the challenges we might face. I called an all-hands meeting at 4:00 p.m. I'm sure you've all heard about my personal situation by now, I began. I want to address it directly rather than let rumors and speculation affect our work environment. I explained the divorce proceedings, the potential impact on client relationships, and our plans for maintaining business stability. The team's response was overwhelmingly supportive. Several employees volunteered to reach out to clients personally, others offered to take on additional responsibilities during the transition. TechGuard isn't just my company, I concluded. It's our company. We've built something valuable together, and we're not going to let personal drama destroy it. The meeting ended with spontaneous applause, which surprised me more than anything else that had happened all week. At 6:00 p.m., I was preparing to leave the office when Jennifer announced an unexpected visitor. "Kellan Trennix is here to see you," she said uncertainly. "Should I tell him you're not available?" I considered my options. Avoiding Kellan might be the smart choice, but I was curious about what he wanted to say. Besides, we were in a professional environment with witnesses present. "Send him back." Kellan entered my office looking haggard and desperate. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled. Wrinkled shirt, unshaven face, tired eyes. He'd clearly had a rough 24 hours. "Brent, we need to talk. I think we've said everything that needs saying. Please, just 5 minutes." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. 5 minutes. Kellan sat down heavily and ran his hands through his hair. This has gotten completely out of control. The video, the news coverage, our employers getting involved, this isn't what anyone wanted. "What did you want, Kellan? To keep sneaking around indefinitely? To maintain your perfect family image while destroying mine?" "I never meant for it to go this far. It just happened." Affairs don't just happen. They're a series of deliberate choices. You chose to pursue my wife. You chose to meet her every Thursday. You chose to take her to hotels. You chose to lie to both our families for 6 weeks. I know, and I'm sorry. But can't we find a way to handle this privately? The public humiliation isn't helping anyone. I studied his face, looking for genuine remorse. What I saw instead was a man worried about his reputation and financial security. "You're not sorry about the affair, Kellan. You're sorry you got caught." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. If I hadn't discovered your Thursday meetings, you'd still be lying to Elara, and I'd still be wondering why my wife seemed so distant. You're only here because your comfortable deception got exposed." Kellan leaned forward desperately. "What do you want? Money? Business considerations? I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." "You can't make this right. You can't undo 6 weeks of betrayal or 12 years of friendship. You can't give me back the trust you destroyed or the marriage you helped wreck." I stood up, indicating the conversation was over. "What I want is for you to face the consequences of your choices, just like I'm facing the consequences of mine." "What consequences?" "You're the hero in this story. Everyone's talking about how brilliantly you handled the situation." "My business is in jeopardy because of the negative publicity. My marriage is over. My personal life is being dissected on social media. I'm facing months of expensive legal proceedings and the challenge of rebuilding my entire future." I walked to the door and opened it. "Those are the consequences of your affair, Kellan. I didn't choose them, but I'm living with them. Now it's your turn." He stood reluctantly. "This isn't over, Brent." "Yes, it is. We're done being friends, done being business associates, and done having any connection beyond what the lawyers require. Walk away and don't come back." Kellan left without another word. I watched him through the window as he walked to his Tesla, shoulders slumped in defeat. Derek appeared in my doorway. "How did that go?" "About as expected. He's not sorry about the affair. He's sorry about getting caught." "Think he'll cause more problems?" "Probably, but we'll handle whatever comes next." I gathered my things and headed home, driving through the familiar streets of Des Moines as evening settled over the city. The house felt peaceful when I walked through the front door. No tension, no suspicion, no wondering where my wife really was. For the first time in months, I was exactly where I belonged. The weekend brought an escalation I should have anticipated, but somehow didn't see coming. Saturday morning, I woke to find my front yard decorated with toilet paper, my mailbox knocked over, and "Cheater" spray-painted across my garage door. The security cameras had captured everything. 3 figures in dark clothing, faces covered, working quickly around 2:00 a.m. The video quality was too poor to identify them definitively, but one person's build and movement patterns looked suspiciously like Kellan. I called Derek, who arrived within 30 minutes to help assess the damage. "Amateur hour," he said, examining the spray paint. "Water-based paint, sloppy application, no attempt to disable your cameras. Either they're incredibly stupid or they wanted to get caught." Probably both. We spent the morning cleaning up the mess and reviewing the security footage. Derek enhanced the images as much as possible, but we couldn't definitively prove Kellan's involvement. "File a police report anyway," he advised. "Start a paper trail in case this escalates further." The police officer who responded was professional but clearly skeptical about the severity of the incident. Vandalism complaints were common during divorce proceedings, and unless we could identify the perpetrators, there wasn't much they could do. Install additional lighting and consider upgrading your camera system, Officer Martinez suggested. Document everything and call us immediately if it happens again. After he'd left, I called Elara to see if she'd experienced similar problems. Nothing like that, she said, but Kellan's been calling constantly, leaving voicemails that range from apologetic to threatening. I've saved everything for my attorney. Threatening how? Promises to make me pay for humiliating him, claims that I'll regret destroying his life, that sort of thing. Classic intimidation tactics from a man who's lost control. We agreed to share information about any further incidents and coordinate our responses through our respective attorneys. Sunday evening brought a more sophisticated attack. Someone had hacked TechGuard's website, replacing our homepage with a message claiming the company was run by a vindictive sociopath who destroys families for entertainment. The hack was technically simple, but required inside knowledge of our content management system. Only a few people had that level of access: current employees, former employees, and business partners who'd worked closely with our IT infrastructure. Former business partners like Kellan Trennix. I called our IT consultant, Marcus Chen, who arrived at the office within an hour to assess the breach. They used administrative credentials that should have been deactivated years ago, he reported. Someone with old access codes and detailed knowledge of your system architecture. How long to fix it? The website restoration will take about 2 hours. Securing against future attacks will take longer. I recommend changing all passwords, updating security protocols, and conducting a full audit of user access privileges. While Marcus worked on the technical repairs, I reviewed our employee records to identify everyone who'd ever had administrative access to our systems. The list was shorter than I'd expected. 5 current employees, 2 former employees, and Kellan. Derek arrived with coffee and updates on his own investigation. I've been asking around about Kellan's situation, he said. Meridian Tech put him on administrative leave pending an internal review. His personal finances are worse than we thought. The house is mortgaged to 90% of its value. He's carrying significant credit card debt, and his Tesla lease is 3 months behind. Desperate people make stupid decisions. Gets worse. I talked to a friend who works at Meridian. Kellan's been telling people that you orchestrated an elaborate revenge scheme to destroy his life and steal his wife. Steal his wife? I've met Elara exactly twice. Logic isn't his strong suit right now. He's convinced that you and Elara planned the whole thing together, that the restaurant confrontation was designed to humiliate him publicly and destroy his reputation. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Kellan's version of events painted him as the victim of a conspiracy rather than the architect of his own downfall. What else is he saying? That you've been monitoring his activities illegally, that you manipulated evidence to make him look guilty, that you're using your security company resources to harass him and his family. His family? He doesn't have a family anymore. Elara filed for divorce and kicked him out. Apparently, he's been telling people that Elara is confused and being manipulated by you. He thinks if he can prove you're the real villain, she'll take him back. The website hack suddenly made more sense. Kellan wasn't just lashing out randomly. He was trying to build a case that I was the aggressor in this situation. Marcus finished the website repairs around 10 p.m. Everything's restored and secured, he reported. But Brent, you should know, whoever did this also tried to access your client database and financial records. They didn't succeed, but they knew exactly where to look. That confirmed my suspicions about Kellan's involvement. He'd helped design TechGuard's original IT infrastructure and knew exactly where our most sensitive information was stored. Can we prove it was him? Not definitively. The attack came through a proxy server that masks the original IP address, but the techniques and target selection suggest someone with intimate knowledge of your business operations. After Marcus left, Derek and I developed a security plan for the coming week. Additional cameras around my house, upgraded IT protection for the business, and a private investigator to monitor Kellan's activities. This is getting expensive, Derek observed. Cheaper than letting him destroy everything I've built. Monday morning brought a new challenge. 3 of TechGuard's largest clients called within an hour of each other, all expressing concerns about our security practices and requesting immediate meetings to review our ongoing relationship. The calls were too coordinated to be coincidental. Someone had contacted our clients with information designed to undermine their confidence in our company. I spent the day in damage control meetings, reassuring clients about our technical capabilities and professional standards. Most were satisfied with my explanations, but Midwest Financial Group decided to pause our contract pending a full review of our security protocols. That afternoon, Ava called with an update on the legal proceedings. Patricia Kellerman filed a motion claiming you've been harassing Nessa and interfering with her ability to find housing, she said. Apparently, Nessa's been denied rental applications at 3 different apartment complexes. How is that my fault? Patricia's claiming you've been contacting landlords and sharing defamatory information about Nessa's character and financial stability. I haven't contacted anyone about Nessa. I know, but someone has. The landlords received calls from someone claiming to be a concerned business associate who provided detailed information about Nessa's affair and suggested she might be a risky tenant. The pattern was becoming clear. Kellan was conducting a systematic campaign to make me look like a vindictive stalker while positioning himself and Nessa as innocent victims. Can we prove he's behind the landlord calls? Not yet, but I'm working with a private investigator to document his activities. If we can establish a pattern of harassment and defamation, we can file counter motions and possibly criminal charges. Tuesday brought the most serious escalation yet. I arrived at TechGuard's office to find 2 police detectives waiting in the lobby. Mr. Marrow, Detective Sarah Williams, Des Moines Police. We need to speak with you about allegations of stalking and criminal harassment. My stomach dropped. What allegations? Kellan Trennix filed a complaint claiming you've been following him, monitoring his activities, and making threatening phone calls. He provided recordings and documentation to support his claims. We went to my office, where Detective Williams played several voicemail recordings. The voice sounded like mine, making vague threats about consequences and making him pay. The technical quality was poor, but the content was clearly designed to sound menacing. Mr. Marrow, can you account for your whereabouts last Thursday evening between 8:00 and 10:00 p.m.? I was at home, working on business documents. I can provide phone records, security camera footage, and witness statements to verify my location. We'll need all of that. In the meantime, I'm advising you to avoid any contact with Mr. Trennix or his associates. No phone calls, no visits, no communication through third parties. After the detectives left, I called Ava immediately. The recordings are fake, I told her. Voice synthesis technology has gotten sophisticated enough to create convincing audio with just a few samples of someone's speech patterns. Can we prove they're fake? Maybe. I'll hire a forensic audio expert to analyze the recordings. But Ava, this is getting serious. Kellan's not just trying to embarrass me, he's trying to have me arrested. I know. I'm filing an emergency motion for a restraining order against both Kellan and Nessa. If they want to play hardball, we'll show them what real legal pressure looks like. That evening, I sat in my office reviewing the events of the past week. What had started as a simple confrontation about an affair had escalated into a complex battle involving vandalism, cyber attacks, client harassment, and false criminal allegations. Kellan had declared war, and he was fighting with the desperation of a man who'd lost everything. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated my resources, my determination, and my willingness to fight back. I opened my laptop and began drafting a comprehensive response plan. If Kellan wanted to destroy my life, he'd discover exactly what happened when someone threatened everything Brent Marrow had worked to build. The gloves were coming off. Wednesday evening, everything came to a head in a way I never could have predicted. I was working late at the TechGuard office, preparing for Thursday's client meetings, when the building's security alarm triggered. The motion sensors showed 2 figures entering through the rear emergency exit, a door that should have been locked and monitored. I pulled up the live camera feeds on my computer. Kellan and Nessa were moving through the building's hallway, heading directly toward my office. Kellan carried what looked like a crowbar, while Nessa held a large bag. They'd come to destroy my business directly. I called 911 first, then Derek, then activated the building's lockdown protocol. Steel security barriers dropped over all windows and exits, trapping the intruders inside while protecting the building's contents. Des Moines Police, what's your emergency? This is Brent Marrow at TechGuard Solutions, 1247 Corporate Drive. 2 people have broken into my building and are attempting to vandalize my office. I have them contained and under surveillance. Are you in immediate danger, Mr. Marrow? I'm in a secure area with multiple exit routes. The intruders are trapped in the main building. Units are en route. Stay on the line. Through the security cameras, I watched Kellan and Nessa realize they were locked inside. Kellan tried to force the emergency exit, but the steel barriers held firm. Nessa appeared to be panicking, pacing back and forth while talking rapidly on her phone. Derek arrived before the police, parking across the street and coordinating with me through our encrypted radio system. I've got visual on 2 patrol cars approaching from the north, he reported. Fire department's right behind them. Copy. I'm going to try talking to them through the intercom system. I activated the building's public address system, which connected to speakers throughout the facility. Kellan, Nessa, this is Brent. The police are here, and you're completely surrounded. The smart move is to put down whatever you're carrying and wait for officers to escort you out. Kellan's voice echoed through the hallway as he shouted back at the cameras. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'm going to destroy everything you care about. You're destroying yourselves. This is breaking and entering, attempted vandalism and criminal trespassing. You're looking at felony charges. You ruined our lives. You humiliated us in public, turned our families against us, destroyed our careers. You deserve everything that's coming to you. I watched through the cameras as police officers surrounded the building. The fire department arrived to handle the security lockdown, while detectives coordinated the arrest procedure. Mr. Marrow, Detective Williams's voice came through my radio. We're going to need you to release the security barriers so we can enter the building. Understood. Give me 30 seconds to ensure the intruders are secured. I switched to the camera view showing Kellan and Nessa. They'd moved to the main lobby, where Kellan was attempting to smash the reception desk with his crowbar. Nessa was emptying her bag, which contained what appeared to be spray paint cans and other vandalism supplies. Barriers releasing in 10 seconds, I announced over the intercom. Kellan, Nessa, move to the center of the lobby and keep your hands visible. I released the lockdown protocol, and the steel barriers retracted with a mechanical hum. Police officers immediately entered through multiple entrances, surrounding the two intruders with professional efficiency. Drop the weapon, hands in the air, move to the center of the room. I watched through the security system as Kellan and Nessa were handcuffed and read their rights. The entire arrest was recorded in high definition from multiple angles, evidence that would be impossible to dispute in court. Detective Williams called my radio 20 minutes later. Mr. Marrow, it's safe for you to come down. We need your statement and a preliminary damage assessment. I met the police in the lobby, where Kellan and Nessa sat in separate patrol cars. The damage was minimal. A few scratches on the reception desk, some spray paint on the walls, nothing that couldn't be repaired easily. They didn't have time to do much before you triggered the lockdown, Detective Williams observed. Smart thinking with the security barriers. That's what they're designed for. Corporate espionage and after-hours intrusions are more common than people realize. I provided a detailed statement about the break-in, the recent escalation of harassment, and the connection to my ongoing divorce proceedings. The detective took notes and reviewed the security footage, building a comprehensive case file. Mr. Marrow, based on what I'm seeing here and the previous complaints, we're going to recommend multiple felony charges against both subjects: breaking and entering, attempted vandalism, criminal trespassing, and violation of the restraining order your attorney filed yesterday. Restraining order? You didn't know? Your attorney filed an emergency protective order yesterday afternoon. Both subjects were served with papers this morning prohibiting them from contacting you or approaching your business. That explained why they'd chosen such a desperate course of action. The legal walls were closing in, and they'd decided to make one final attempt at revenge. Derek joined us in the lobby, having coordinated with the police perimeter team. Kellan's been talking to the officers, he reported. Claims this was all Nessa's idea, that she convinced him to help her get justice for the public humiliation. What's Nessa saying? That you've been systematically destroying their lives and they had no choice but to fight back. She's demanding to speak with a lawyer. Detective Williams closed her notebook. They'll both be processed tonight and arraigned tomorrow morning. Given the restraining order violation and the premeditated nature of this incident, I doubt they'll get bail. After the police left, Derek and I spent an hour documenting the damage and reviewing the security footage. The cameras had captured everything from multiple angles: the initial break-in, their movement through the building, their attempted vandalism, and their arrest. This should end it, Derek said as we prepared to leave. No judge is going to look favorably on people who break into buildings with crowbars and spray paint. I hope so, but desperate people don't always make rational decisions. Thursday morning brought a flood of phone calls from reporters, clients, and curious acquaintances. The break-in had made the local news, complete with security footage of the arrest. Unlike the restaurant confrontation, this story painted a clear picture of who was the aggressor. Ava called at 9:12 a.m. with updates from the arraignment hearing. Kellan and Nessa were both denied bail, she reported. The judge cited the restraining order violation, the premeditated nature of the crime, and the risk of continued harassment. They're being held pending trial. How long until trial? Probably 6 to 8 weeks. But Brent, there's something else. Patricia Kellerman withdrew as Nessa's attorney this morning. Apparently she doesn't want to represent someone facing felony charges. That was significant news. Patricia Kellerman was expensive, aggressive, and completely comfortable with ethically questionable tactics. If she was walking away from Nessa's case, it meant she didn't think it was winnable. What about Kellan? Public defender. His assets are frozen pending the divorce proceedings, and Meridian Tech terminated his employment yesterday. He can't afford private representation. I spent Thursday morning meeting with clients who wanted to discuss the break-in. Instead of expressing concern about TechGuard's security, most were impressed by how effectively our systems had contained the threat. Your building's security response was flawless, said Jim Morrison from Midwest Financial. We'd like to discuss upgrading our own facilities with similar capabilities. By noon, I'd received inquiries from 4 potential new clients who'd seen the news coverage and wanted to learn more about our security systems. The attempted attack on my business had inadvertently become the best advertising TechGuard had ever received. Derek found the irony hilarious. Kellan tried to destroy your company and ended up proving how good your security systems are. That's poetic justice. Friday afternoon brought the final piece of closure I'd been waiting for. Elara called to update me on her divorce proceedings and Kellan's current situation. The divorce was finalized this morning, she said. Kellan signed all the papers from his jail cell rather than fight it in court. I'm keeping the house, the children, and most of our assets. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. The children are adjusting well, my job is secure, and I'm looking forward to building a new life without the constant stress of wondering what Kellan was really doing. Any regrets about how we handled the restaurant confrontation? None whatsoever. Kellan made his choices, and we simply ensured he faced appropriate consequences. If anything, I wish we'd acted sooner. We talked for another few minutes about practical matters, finalizing the divorce paperwork, coordinating with our respective attorneys, and ensuring there were no loose ends that could complicate our futures. Brent, Elara said before we hung up, I want to thank you again for having the courage to contact me. A lot of people would have just filed for divorce quietly and let the other spouse continue living a lie. Everyone deserves to know the truth about their marriage. Yes, they do, and everyone deserves a partner who values honesty over convenience. That evening, I sat in my office reviewing the events of the past 2 weeks. What had started as a simple discovery of my wife's affair had escalated into a complex drama involving public confrontations, criminal charges, and the complete destruction of 2 marriages. But through it all, I'd maintained my integrity, protected my business, and ensured that the people who'd betrayed my trust faced appropriate consequences. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I almost deleted it without reading, assuming it was another reporter or curious acquaintance. Instead, it was from Nessa. I'm sorry, Brent. For everything. You deserved better. I stared at the message for a long time, considering how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it completely. Too little, too late. Another part wanted to send a scathing reply about the pain she'd caused and the damage she'd done to our lives. In the end, I chose a different path. I hope you find whatever you were looking for, Nessa, and I hope it was worth the price you paid. I sent the message, then blocked her number permanently. Saturday morning, I woke up in my empty house and realized something had fundamentally changed. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely optimistic about the future. The uncertainty was over. The betrayal was behind me, and I had the freedom to build whatever life I wanted. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and began planning TechGuard's expansion into new markets. The publicity from recent events had generated more business interest than we could handle with our current staff. It was time to grow, to take on bigger challenges, and to prove that surviving betrayal had made me stronger rather than bitter. My phone rang at 10 a.m., Derek calling from his weekend fishing trip. How are you feeling, boss? Like I just woke up from a very long, very unpleasant dream. Any plans for the weekend? I looked around my peaceful house, considered my options, and smiled. I'm going to enjoy being exactly where I want to be, with exactly the people I choose to be with. For the first time in a long time, that's just me. Sounds perfect. It was perfect. Not the life I'd planned 2 weeks ago, but the life I'd earned through honesty, courage, and refusing to accept betrayal as acceptable. I hung up the phone and got back to work, building something new from the ashes of what I'd lost. The future was wide open, and it belonged entirely to me.